Hello and welcome to Digital Transformation for Humans with your host, Amy. In this podcast, we delve into how technology intersects with leadership, innovation, and most importantly, the human spirit. Each episode features visionary leaders who understand that at the heart of success is the human touch, nurturing a winning mindset, fostering emotional intelligence, and building resilient teams. Today, we will focus on AI and deep dive into the topic of taking intelligent risks for the fast-paced business growth. Roland Williams, an American in Stockholm, Sweden, is our fantastic guest today. Welcome, Roland.
Thank you so much.
Let's start the conversation and transform not just our technologies, but our ways of thinking and leading. Interested in connecting or collaborating? Find more information in the description. Subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes. I'm so happy to see you here today, Roland, and knowing your background and your power, your expertise, it's such a blessing to have this conversation today. Please share a few words about yourself and your journey with our listeners and viewers today.
Sure. And thank you again for having me. My background is really within communications. I've worked with companies like Coca-Cola and IBM in the US. And then I was invited to work in Sweden, actually, for a communications firm. So there we had the merger of AstraZeneca and many other companies to help them with their communications. And a lot of this is really about context. I guess the full career, if you will, is really all about helping leaders and CIOs, CTOs, and the like to have context around their business. And then towards the mid, say, 2015 or so, I started to work more heavily with IT communications. So really focused on that specifically.
Sounds really interesting. The first question, which might be really relevant for everybody who is with us today. Many businesses struggle with the balance between innovation and risk management when it comes to AI, and AI is such a hot topic today. So, what strategies can leaders adopt to foster a culture that encourages intelligent risk-taking while still maintaining necessary safeguards and ethical standards?
Wow, that's a great question. And I talk about context a lot, and really that's really what it's all about. Wrote a book, The Principles of Intrapreneurial Capital, with Albert Bengtsson and Brigitte Stjerne. And we actually have a model in the book that Albert and Brigitte came up with. They're the architects of the models, the 4C model for transformative development. And that model really kind of quickly gives you a general understanding that there are two systems at work. The changing system on the right-hand side, which is where we have complexity. We have projects in complexity, like what's going on now with AI, for example, and machine learning. But we've had all kinds of developments there. So the changing system, it constantly changes. And then on the left side of the equation, we have the stable system. And that's where things have always sort of been done and managed, so to speak, managed in the same way. Basically, this is where the budgets are. This is where a lot of big companies have seen quite a bit of success. They know how to, their focus is on efficiency, growth, and profitability. They just do that. And that's worked very well. And the thing is to have a balance between these two systems, to find balance. So having some context, first of all, around these two different systems is the first step. And then whatever else is going on around that, we can sort of deep dive into it. But to make sense of what's going on, to understand why it's necessary to invest in transformative development when the alterations are so significant that they fundamentally change the way a company or institution operates. So that's really what it's about, context.
Thank you for sharing. And I totally agree. Context is really crucial. And unfortunately, still, so often it is outside of focus and priorities. That's the reality. And that's why you are there to support leaders and help organizations. AI can be a powerful tool for accelerating business growth. And so many companies want it to be there, but its implementation often requires a substantial shift in organizational processes and mindset. And I've been there, I've done that as well, and I know how difficult and challenging it might be. So, what are some of your key takeaways, probably, on those challenges businesses face when integrating AI, and how can they overcome these challenges to leverage AI effectively for those fast-paced companies who want to grow and expand?
Right. Most companies are struggling with this issue right now. There's no real silver bullet, if you will, or sort of easy answer to this. I will say, though, that in our research for the book, Principles of Intrapreneurial Capital, what we've realized through hundreds of interviews and meetings with business leaders and product owners and designers and all kinds of folks is that this is not a technical thing. Whatever is going on right now, whatever's been put in the water with AI, there are lots of, it's like almost like a toolbox, if you will, or a toy box, you could call it, but a toy box of wonderful tools and whatnot that can do incredible things and provide insights, beyond our wildest dreams. That's great. And from a technical standpoint, even some of it is quite amazing. But if you look at how even the global pandemic, the COVID-19 global pandemic and the market crash of 2008, I would like for us to sort of take 1 minute and just kind of go there for a second, because none of these companies, organizations, schools, hospitals, no one was ready for those, right? Really ready. And we struggled to, okay, what does this mean? And how do we work this way? And how do we change our processes and whatnot? It was a big thing. That, in a sense, is kind of what all of this should be about. And that we need to prepare our infrastructure. It's urgent for management teams to know if the company infrastructure is resilient enough to weather such a traumatic storm. So again, while AI can literally, help us to quickly iterate or find something that perhaps would take us a longer amount of time. So it does boost our ability to drill down, shall we say? Absolutely. But I would say, like the muscular system, a company builds its strength from a greater amount of stress. And we learned this from many, many wonderful meetings with Dr. Ruben Puentedura, who was our coach on the book, The Principles of Intrapreneurial Capital. He really, really helped us to kind of get some clarity around anti-fragile thinking and anti-fragile systems. So imagine using anti-fragility, in other words, to reach your business goals. And what it does is it benefits the company or the organization in this case from odd or unforeseen events. So again, we'll get into AI in just a second, but I think it's probably even more important to kind of talk a little bit about anti-fragility. And anti-fragile systems, in a nutshell, are made of three fundamental areas. You've got building organizational support for entrepreneurship, and that is the employees who are, working at the company. They thrive in complexity, kind of like an entrepreneur would. An entrepreneur is a very common label, but an intrapreneur is sort of like an entrepreneur, but working within a company. For example, Vogel has intrapreneurs, and they're employed by Vogel. They might be working, their title might be a product owner or something like that, but they are intrapreneurs working in an entrepreneurial way. So this is the first thing. If there's organizational support for these employees, the ones who have a knack for quickly discovering and introducing insights from the outside world and are star players, the ones they're uniquely qualified, you could say, to catalyze some sort of transformative development, if you will. The next thing is really is to increase the collaboration and networking between teams to decrease the conflicts. And we all know that there are conflicts in larger organizations. There's, internal politics and whatnot. But to increase the collaboration is essential for these anti-fragile systems. And the first step in meeting them, or the challenges, if you will, is to establish a mutual understanding of how these transformational business processes, how they can work in-house. So that's kind of the second point I'd make. And then the third point would be to recruit or what I would consider nurture the leaders who can lead in an ambidextrous way. In fact, we had a fantastic conversation with Dr. Annika Staber, who's done a lot of research and written books on the topic. Ambidextrous leadership, meaning both sides. And we talked about that, the changing system and the stable system before. So think of it like this in a nutshell, as the degree of certainty for a transformational development project can vary from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. The leaders need to have some kind of way of navigating between these different conditions. And that's really what it's about. So those are the three things. So with that said, imagine, again, if the company has this sort of muscle, if you will, to work in complexity and to integrate these new ideas, new projects into the ongoing business, that's where things happen. And there are a couple of cases, I can talk about them if you like, that show this, but that's the best way forward, I believe. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I love your way of referring to the Corona time as a test for how resilient, how fragile or not those companies were, because at that time I've been standing for a data analytics and insights team in a big corporation myself. And I remember all the stress put on the leaders, on all the participants, and on the businesses themselves. Yeah. And it was really a powerful reminder that you have to be ready, you have to look 3 steps forward, and you have to extrapolate what is needed within the organization in case if something goes not as expected, not as planned, and all your systems will be put on test.
There you go. That is so right.
And so right. Those 3 areas you mentioned They are exactly those three areas which are crucial, and I've seen it as well. So it's brilliant that you highlighted it. And of course, there is no technical solution, there is no AI solution which is going to fly if those three parts are not in place and not set up as they should be.
That's it. You got it.
And now coming back to those real life examples you mentioned, of course, we want real life examples from your experience. And I want to hear more about those cases where intelligent risk taking and the use of AI have led to significant business growth. Could you please share with us a
Sure.
few of them, or at least one?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, there are plenty of cases out there, but I think there are really two that kind of stand out. And when we were doing our research for the book, The Principles of Intrapreneurial Capital, I really feel like Amazon Prime and Gmail are the two products that sort of stood out from all the rest. It's not just because they are interesting products from a design standpoint, but I think they're a direct result of each company's ability to successfully discover and integrate something new from within the company. I talked a little bit about entrepreneurship a few minutes ago, and I would say in the case of Amazon Prime, for example, the origin story is just fascinating. You know, Amazon was started as an online marketplace for books in the summer of 1994, when maybe you remember when Sweden took third place in the World Cup. They were trailing Italy and the winning team, Brazil. But anyway, a young Jeff Bezos, who was about 30 years old at the time, he advocates for the company to begin to diversify or grow the number of product categories. So instead of just selling books, which is what they were more or less doing online, they became known as the everything store. And anyway, things are moving in the right direction. And a few years later, Amazon's management team sets up what's called a digital suggestion box for the employees. So you can send in your ideas, right? It's like a repository to encourage them to, send in product ideas. Because the management team realized that they shouldn't just only sell books, that maybe they should diversify. But here's the kicker. So they introduce this methodology called working backwards. And it's really kind of a step-by-step sort of reverse engineering each idea. And the first to use a one-page template called a future press release. So the employees would quickly describe the value proposition and then illustrate the desired customer experience, right, in a short narrative, which is really brilliant. But anyone in design or engineering would want to know how and why the finished product came about, right? You want to know. So working backwards also outlines the milestones in the product roadmap, even the technical stuff, I mean, to a certain degree, of course. And it goes from the desired outcome, like the optimal thing, right, nirvana, and it goes backwards and shows you peeling back the onion. How did this happen? And then how did that happen? How did it lead to that? And so forth, back to the very beginning. So you work backwards. And this methodology really in itself, it exemplifies what I consider the power of diversity in thought and diversity in discipline. And that's kind of unique. So why is that important? So you need to look at it from a product from different angles. I would say, does it solve an apparent need? Is it accessible? How is it accessible? Even from a marketing standpoint, how does the experience help deliver on the brand promise better than the competition? So imagine it's about 2003, 2004. Amazon's been around for about 10 years. And one day, this entrepreneur, his name is Charlie Ward, he comes up with this idea to integrate exclusive shipping into an annual membership. That was his idea that he sent in to the digital suggestion box, right? And the company gets behind it and develops a product roadmap, and it's called Amazon Prime. Now, a lot of people might think, if you're listening out there, I'm not Amazon, I don't have that many employees or that kind of reach or whatever. But hold on, here it comes. Because today, Amazon has, let's say, 230 million subscribers. Amazon Prime does, excuse me. And it brings in, I think, $40 billion in annual revenue, which means that's about 14% of the company's total annual revenues are a direct result of entrepreneurship. So when I talk to, innovation teams and whatnot, when we're out talking with them and doing workshops, I try to get them to understand that, and their management teams, to understand that it's important to look within the company and look at that internal muscle we talked about a few minutes ago, about anti-fragile systems and whatnot. Look at that internal muscle. What's going on here at home, here within our own organization? The talent who actually has the means, can use the AI and to dig down and understand where we're going, perhaps has the forecasting and the foresight, I should say, to get some of these insights and bring them to the surface. And there is a lot of capital out there for these companies if they have the processes and the methodologies, as in this case with Amazon, with the working backwards method and whatnot, if they put some things like that in place so that the employees have that organizational support, right, and have the ambidextrous leadership, then this is possible. You have to have that, not just the fancy toys with AI, not only that, but you have to have the support. So that's kind of it brings it back around to entrepreneurship. Google also did this. I'll finish this up by saying that the Gmail is the other case, I think, that is kind of interesting because, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, they started what's called Google, which is called Alphabet now, but they did something similar in a way to what Amazon did in the early days, and they offered the employees a chance to use up to 20% of their work week to experiment. So, it was on the clock. So imagine an entrepreneur, an employee named Paul Buchheit. He developed this idea for Gmail, probably on a whiteboard, as his 20% project. And the company launched it as a product in 2004. So today, if we just fast forward, today the company has nearly a third of the total email management market, which is approaching, I think, 4.5 billion email accounts or something. Now, they might not have had that if they hadn't done that in 2004. If they hadn't said, hey, if you like, you can take, 20% of your work week and play. In other words, come up with an idea, throw it at us. Let's see what we can do. And that trust, I think there's something about that. And this is the soft stuff that management is not, shall we say, trained at really valuing. But the fact is, it is important to have that, as you said at the outset, this culture of innovation, this fostering this sort of way of interacting and engaging and really using the internal talent
I love your approach and your real life stories. But while you was describing those success cases, I was thinking there was one leader behind every case who recognized the potential, who didn't kill that idea in the beginning, because both you and I, we probably saw too many bright ideas which never saw the light and were killed before they got a chance to prove that they had a fantastic potential. So I wanted to ask you as well, what are your main recommendations for leaders dealing with innovation and the latest technologies in this era of fast-paced transformation? How can they open up to all the changes and apply the right type of mindset and catch up with what is possible to
Yeah.
create that expansion, to allow it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we talked a little bit about having a having more context around these issues is number one. I can't stress that enough. Uh, the second thing I think would be to have some way of, you maybe say, failing fast. If you have a way of doing that, that would, of course, be wise to implement those structures, those methodologies, those mechanisms, have the right talent, people that are out there and doing it and know how to recruit and build your teams accordingly. So I would say that. And then I would say also, I was very inspired when I was at Coca-Cola. I was actually there while Roberto Goizueta was at the tail end of his incredible career as the chairman and CEO. And he then handed it over to Doug Ivester, who took over from there. So I was there then. And Roberto Goizueta, he was a very shy, very humble man, but he said that we should take intelligent risks. And he would talk about these intelligent risks. And it didn't really, I guess, it didn't really resonate with me until a few years later, quite frankly, to be brutally honest about it. It was just, there was so much going on. It was so exciting. You know, we were doing things, digitizing things for the Olympics and for this key account and that key. I had a great time. And it was fantastic, really. But when he said that, and I think about it now, it still applies today. It's kind of one of those basic, truths that we need to stop and kind of maybe even reflect on every now and then. In business, we need to take intelligent risks. And now we have the potential with AI and with our talent, enormous talent, to do just that. So we can explore and we can do it in a measured way, and we can literally see what's working, what's not working. Do we want to keep this? Do we want to pivot? How do we want to do this and keep it moving? So I would say, and even, Mark Zuckerberg and many others have been doing the fail fast, using this sort of, okay, let's do another update. Let's do another update. Let's do another update. And the leaders who are kind of stuck in the old paradigm of let's make it perfect and then let's release it, you're going to miss the train. It's the ones who understand we need to do this now or do something now and get it done and then iterate and update. Those are the ones who are going to move forward. That's just the way it is. But again, taking intelligent risks is the foundational principle here. And then on top of that, we have all this other stuff. That helps. I hope that helps.
It's amazing how you gather together all those most important pieces which need to be in place. And what I see from my perspective, it is only the fact that leaders also need to take that responsibility over the potential outcomes, over what might happen when they speed up too much and don't think what their actions, what their choices might lead to. So it has to be a balance between those risks taken and how they might impact the bigger picture.
Right.
I absolutely love the insights you shared with us today. Thank you so much for being here today and talking about all those important, crucial pieces which need to be in place for the companies, for the organizations. And I agree that it's probably a better word and it fits into this context much better. And I hope that our today's conversation will empower and inspire many leaders to take next steps and take those calculated risks where they might really leverage AI and other technologies and expand their business. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on Digital Transformation for Humans. I'm Amy, and it was enriching to share this time with you. Remember, the core of any transformation lies in our human nature, how we think, feel, and connect with others. It is about enhancing our emotional intelligence, embracing a winning mindset, and leading with empathy and insight. Subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes where we uncover the latest trends in digital business and explore the human side of technology and leadership. Until next time, keep nurturing your mind, fostering your connections, and leading with heart.